Hello Orchid friends, welcome back to my channel. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day, staying healthy and staying safe. This is my Phalaenopsis Mariet. This is a species orchid. I have had this orchid for quite a few years, ever since I was living in New York, and it has always been a relatively reliable bloomer. It also has a really strong sequential blooming capability. This time around, I am getting flowers from 3 different spikes, and at the same time, it was also growing 2 new spikes. This orchid doesn't really have that big of a fragrance. If I put my nose really close to the flowers, I can smell a little bit of something, but it's not something I would declare as quote-unquote fragrance. Another interesting aspect about this orchid is the way it looks. Its flower has this really creamy white background, and then you have this red color blocks. As the flowers age, between the red and the white, you'll see a little bit of that yellow / orange color. That's always an indication for me to know that the flowers are on their way out. But typically this orchid can stay in bloom for about a month or the bloom duration. Different years this orchid will give me different bloom counts, but as this orchid age, and as you can see, it is growing older and older, because you look at some of the older leaves at the bottom, they're much smaller. I got this orchid years ago. When I got it, it was a near blooming size plant. But every year it just grew larger and larger, so it is the adolescent stage. It's not quite fully mature yet, because if you look at some mature Mariets online, it's actually rather like the leaf span is quite large. It's probably double the leaf span of this orchid. So I'm thinking this orchid still has a couple years to go to really reach that full maturity and full potential. With this orchid, I don't really provide a whole lot of special care. Every week, I would give this orchid quarter strength fertilizer. So whatever fertilizer I use, I look at the label. I only make it so that the concentration is only 25% of what it says on the label. So I would do that for 3 weeks in a row. And then at the end of the month, the last week of the month, I would only use just pure water to soak this orchid so that I can remove salt buildup from the fertilizer, or even just give the medium or media mixture and the roots a rinse, a bath, if you will. And that actually does a lot of, good to the orchid, because sometimes when you have that much salt built up with the orchid roots, and you may risk burning the roots, not to the point where the roots will rot, but you're gonna see that sometimes the surface, you're gonna see just a tiny little bit of that salt build up, or a little bit of that fertilizer burn. So using just water to soak orchids once a month, I think that's sufficient, and that would help reduce those salt marking or salt buildup. Now, this orchid is currently still in a 12-ounce container, because when I first got it, it was very small, and it has been in that cup for quite some time. And since then, it has grown a lot of aerial roots. So I am thinking that I would like to give this orchid a repot after this bloom cycle. I said the same thing last time, but I just didn't get to it. And this time, I really think that this orchid has gotten larger, and it really needs a repot to be able to do better. And coming up, you're going to see a quick video footage of the orchid when it was in full bloom. I really enjoy looking at the orchid. The only thing that I'm not sure about this orchid, this Mariet, is that the flowers are really flat, and the typical Mariet photos I am able to see online, those Mariet flowers aren't always opening very flat and extended. So to me, this orchid's the markings and color look like Mariet, but the way that the flower is open to almost flat, always makes me wonder whether this orchid is actually Bastianii. But because the tag that came with the orchid says Mariet, and I believe the nursery that I purchased it from, so I'm just gonna say it's Mariet. And here in the video here, the flower is on the spike that grew out of a node, because the original spike tip was damaged by me, because this is maybe 4 or 5 years ago while I was moving this orchid, and I accidentally bumped this orchid against a wall, and the spike tip just kind of, fell off. That's what happened. So from that node, it started to grow a new spike, and then since then, this spike has just been, doing really well and bloom. Overall, I really like this orchid for its color combination, the way that the flower, or I guess the marking, the flower pattern look. Now of how much airy roots are there, and also how much roots are in the medium. The medium mixture right now is manto clay and hydrocorn, and I think I'm gonna continue to use the same mixture for this orchid, but next time when I pot this orchid, I will up pot it, so it would definitely at least going into a 16-ounce cup. This is a 12-ounce cup, so that's what I'm planning to do. If you don't have Mariet in your collection, I totally encourage you to give it a try. And unless you can get a hold of a mature plant, otherwise you have to wait maybe 1 to 2 years before a young plant would bloom. But as soon as it starts blooming, though, every year, if you just do the regular generic orchid care, I'm pretty sure your Mariet will bloom every single year for you from there. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!